Previously on a Hollow Review, Kitty Sugawara, intergalactic vigilante of the stars, is joined by Free Dert and Lonely Bastard in her adventures to defeat evil Queen Malidina, the harsh tyrant of Uranus, who seeks to quell the freedoms of everyone.
Evil Queen Malidina, your conquest against the orphan planet of Gorbula ends here!
How foolish of thou to enter my domain! Thine cosmic fuel which powers my omega ships is but a quarter of my plan to conquer the fourth quadrant of this galactic system. Not even you and your compatriots shall defy fate itself.
You fiend!
Free Dert!
Oh!
You will pay for your deeds of turning this once great planet of orphan children into your own slave labor collective. May your tyranny finally end this day, you stupid wench.
Haha, your puny, insignificant wobbies are no match for my Omega Shield.
Oh no! Oh no, indeed! Will Kitty, Free Dert, and Lonely Bastard break through the Omega Shield and defeat evil Queen Malidina once and for all? Maybe not!
Moe Moe Kyun. Moe Moe Kyun. Moe Moe Kyun.
Okay, I'll stop that. As of my writing this review, I'm pegged with a question on my mind as to how something can be both refreshing to the spirit, yet somehow baffling to the mind. Refreshing in the fact that we have an anime about gun-toting Akiba Maids in a universe that's one big homage to Japanese crime and Yakuza cinema, filled to the brim with melodrama about honor, betrayal, survival,
Moe Moe Kyun.
and the consequences of past actions. Yet baffling in not only how scattered the execution can be at times, not that it's a huge detriment, but also how no one really brings up this show as much as I personally think it should be, or trying to stand out on premise alone. In the same anime season as Chainsaw Man, Bocchi the Rock, Spy Family Part 2, Mob Psycho 3, Bleach, 1000 Year Blood War, Blue Lock, second season of Uzaki-chan, a new adaptation of Urusei Yatsura, and everything else in between, Akiba Maid War has likely had clips seen by many, yet the show itself unwatched by less, at least in comparison to a majority of the fall 2022 competition. It's a shame that the series, though flawed, falls underneath the shadow of the most notable titles of the season, if not the entire 2022 year, as it's one I couldn't help but be glued to the most. Yes, even Chainsaw Man, in which remains a rare occasion that I'm reading the manga while the anime airs, doesn't quite pique my interest the same way Akiba Maid War had, despite being of lesser quality on a technical level. Part of this conundrum can sort of boil down to how the show itself was marketed. From marketing materials, you never really expect much from the show when basing your expectations on such tame preview material. Even the official plot synopsis absolutely fails to capture just what the show really is. A crime soap opera where maid cafes are treated as Yakuza-like businesses, maids are Yakuza members, and there's a hierarchy that leads to the top maid who controls all. Deals are made, money is made, human lives are made a commodity, blood is shed, and death imprints itself as a sign of everyday normality in Akihabara's underbelly. If that sounds interesting to you, then I just did a better job marketing Akiba Maid War than the actual marketing team itself. Instead, they decided to pretty much hide just about everything that makes the show tick. Kinda like how Madoka Magica did both for itself and the Mahou Shoujo genre at large, but this time it really came to bite it in the ass. Of course, there's more to the show than a failure of marketing. Even my jaded ass was actually pretty damned hooked by the time PA Works decided to pull the curtain and let the show go off before the title even dropped. A maid is killed by gunfire, and it only flies off the rails from there with a gunfight, blood splattering everywhere as set to cutesy, sugary J-pop trash, after pigtails are soon to be cut off like a torture scene. It's good shit, and it instantly made me want more from there. Making a first impression is definitely something Akiba Maid War succeeded at, in part because of its true nature being hidden until release, and my expectations couldn't have been any higher from here. The problem? Well, it's not so much a case where the show suffers from a major problem that pervades the entire whole, as much as it's a case of numerous little problems that drag the experience down from something potentially groundbreaking to something that's gonna ultimately be disposed of by the time it's over. Not a death blow, but a limp from multiple wounds, so to speak. But what an entertaining limp by wounds. Episode to episode, the world building kept my attention firm, something I hoped for, and to its credit, the show delivers on its promise of a Maids as Yakuza formula, enrapturing the viewer in a warped 1999 reality that does do a good job of being fairly believable while watching, though we don't get a clear picture of what the world is like outside of the show's maid culture. It's clear that such matters are irrelevant in the grander scheme of things. Our protagonist, Nagomi Wahira, serves as the emissary into this world. Being a 17-year-old young woman looking to become an Akiba Maid as her goal in life, she realizes it's a dark road where she can only be beaten down if she lets herself be. While our secondary main character, Ronko Manin, plays the experienced, professional, and badass pseudo-mentor role, having left prison after a decade of confinement, with her own motives becoming clearer as the show goes on. A shame the rest of the cast, mainly the rest of the Oinky Doink Cafe, fail to have the same fleshing out of background, character arcs, and much else in between, aside from fulfilling tropes. They're not boring, they have enough writing put into them that they have a personality, but the highlight really is Nagomi and Ronko. Nagomi especially having the most prominent character arc of the bunch. Yumechi is apparently the star maid of the group, yet we never truly focus on what filling such a role is like in this world. Shippon is the Gyaru of the group who doesn't get much in terms of character building. Zoya is important for only one episode before she's reallocated to stock support character. And Yasuko is the typical comedy relief character, being the manager yet being so cowardly and pathetic, greedy yet can never catch a break in terms of sales, has simple dreams and no way to fulfill them. She's very simple, and that describes the supporting cast in general. And don't get me started on the panda. They play their roles, they do their jobs for the plot, but at 12 episodes, there's not much that could really be done with them on a more personal level. Nagomi and Ronko are basically the only two characters that matter. It's not too much of a big deal as long as the plot remains engrossing, and to be fair, it mostly does due to its drama-first nature that walks a fine line between sincerity to being so over the goddamn top that it can reach a level of entertaining absurdity. From an episode where the Oinky Doink gang must play poker to earn money while using their lives as collateral, to an MMA fighting episode where Zoya is introduced and subsequently joins the cast, to an oath of sisterhood ending in utter tragedy. The show tries to introduce new ways to keep its 12th episode single core length going with variety, though this is a double-edged sword. For every impactful, seemingly gut-wrenching moment of dramatic weight, you have something like the baseball episode where the gang must play a game of baseball to settle a score with a rival faction, or the climbing competition episode. They somehow manage to make both of these relevant to the broader plot at large, but in a way that muddles the water a little bit as to what direction the show is trying to go for. It's a high concept sort of offering that strives for a very interesting spin on the crime drama anime, but I bet you could trim some of the show's fat and would be better off for it. Seriously, did we really need that baseball episode? We only need it because they cram in relevant plot points into it, but that doesn't mean the characters wasting the running time playing baseball isn't any less of a waste of time in the long run. There's also a lack of a central antagonist for most of the show. Sure, candidates pop up, from the ruthless Nanami, the Crimson Supernova herself, Nagi, the head honcho of the Creatureland group, and even the goddamn panda turns out to be more than what it seems, or rather what she seemed, and is arguably the character that screwed up the life of Ronko the most. Ultimately, Nanami is defeated and never heard from again. Nagi becomes the antagonist, but only through circumstance in several episodes, and the panda? Well, fuck that panda if you think about it. It culminates in a story that deviates more than I would like, only saved by the fact that this is still a show about Yakuza maids, and I gotta admit, the twist can be pretty damn well executed when Akiba Maid War is about its main plotline. The ending particularly, which I won't spoil for one reason, is especially shocking at how well realized and on point it really is for what the show aims to be, the thematic significance it represents to Nagomi herself, and the underlying message it conveys about how the cycle of violence isn't unbreakable.
The Moe Moe Kyun is strong indeed.
It's still an entertaining joyride, and well acted, I must say, just not an entirely consistent one when all is said and done. This isn't even talking about the visual presentation, which isn't bad, but not quite what I would usually expect from PA Works of all studios. Now, I'll admit that I haven't been quite as in touch with the anime sphere as I did years ago, but I remember PA Works being quite the visual powerhouse during the TV anime days of Hanasaku Iroha, Another, Tari Tari, Nagino Asukara, and Shirobako. And maybe they still are, and this is just ignorance on my part. I haven't seen Uma Musume and Aquatope, both of which seem to look better than Akiba Maid War in terms of sheer art and animation. Okay, actually scratch that. The show can actually look pretty good at times, though not as much as I wish it would. Otherwise, it looks fairly average for the most part. Yeah, just wanted to say that, me from the future, and yeah, you know what? Merry Christmas! I don't know, compared to previous PA Works TV anime efforts, the show looks more on the average side. Not looking bad, but being artistically less ambitious than their previous titles, which is ironic given the surprisingly ambitious premise, like it wasn't given the same level of priority in terms of time or budget for the staff to flex their creative muscles. Was this a B-team effort on PA Works' part? I don't know, maybe. But from the same studio that brought us one of the most informative and creatively clever shows to come out that was all about how anime is even made in the first place, this isn't quite up to par with the high level of standards I know this studio has for its work. It's just inoffensive to look at, which I was never really awed by what I saw, but not disturbed either. It just works. If anything, inoffensive is the key word for Akiba Maid War in general. Will this show even be remembered after its airing? Or will it be anime 1,200,366 on my anime list? A footnote in the long expanse that is anime. Honestly, I wish this to not be the case. I chose to review Akiba Maid War instead of something like, say, Chainsaw Man, because we need more shows like Akiba Maid War. Original shows not tied down by needing to abide by adaptation obligations or trend chasing that strive for a new kind of premise that really shakes the foundations of the medium at its backside. Execution itself be damned. Your Zombieland sagas or your odd taxis. Anime is at its best when you take the most outlandish premise possible and somehow make it work, and where it counts, Akiba Maid War is fun and refreshing in its own way, and that counts for a lot to jaded dumbasses like me. So I salute you, Akiba Maid War, for you may not be the prettiest gal in town or the smartest, but you are the most interesting in my book. Akiba Maid War isn't gonna win any anime awards, but it sure as hell reminds me of why I love anime in the first place. So yeah, go watch Akiba Maid War.